Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our Genetics 2 class. If you remember, we were discussing mutation and mutation rate in our previous lesson or previous class, and we are going to continue with that. Uh, as far as this mutation is concerned or mutation rate is concerned, there has been a discussion among the geneticists about the occurrence of mutation. So the problem that we are going to discuss in this particular lesson or in this particular class, that is a very basic, simple question you are viewing at the top. Are mutations random or adaptive? Now, what this question means are the discussion that has been among the scientists, especially those dealing with DNA or genetics or mutations, that do mutations occur in living organisms randomly, spontaneously, or these mutations occur as an adaptation to certain, so to say, environmental condition or to certain factors to which a particular organism is exposed. So if the organisms, if these mutations are adaptive, then whenever an organism, be it a bacteria or some other higher plant or animal, then as an adaptation to those environmental factor, he must mutate so as to adapt to that environmental changes or to those environmental factors. However, the other, and if it is not adaptive, then these mutation must be random or spontaneous, and they are not due to certain adaptive mechanism or due to certain environmental factors or changes. So how we can determine that mutation that has taken place or mutation that has occurred in a particular organism, it is result of an adaptation, or is it just random or spontaneous? Obviously, a very difficult question to answer. But two scientists, Salvador Luria and Max Delbruck, they performed a very elegant experiment. Uh, that was really a masterpiece, and they performed their experiments long ago, back in 1943. Now, these are uh, our questions, as you can see. Mutations may occur randomly, spontaneously, or because of selective pressure. Uh, if mutations occur randomly, then they are not directed by environment in which the organism finds itself. That is, mutation arise spontaneously in the absence of any selective pressure. There is no selection from the environment. In fact, mutations occur spontaneously rather than being the consequence of selective pressure. So, what Luria and Delbruck did, that they verified this concept that mutations are not because of selective pressure, mutations are random or spontaneous. And their experiment, the classical experiment, is known as Luria-Delbruck fluctuation test. And in fact, their experiment was the first direct evidence that mutations do not occur as part of an adaptive mechanism, rather than they take place spontaneously and random. random. Now, the organism that they chose for their particular experiment or this fluctuation test was Escherichia coli. E. coli and a bacteriophage known as T1, uh, which infects the T. coli cells. Luria-Delbruck fluctuation test. So the E. coli strains, they are of two kinds. Now, these are the uh, E. coli colonies which are susceptible. Susceptible. They are susceptible to phage attack, and when phage attacks on the TUN or TUN-S variety or strain of E. coli, their cells are lysed, their cells are destroyed, and the colonies they slowly vanish on the culture medium or on the petri plate. Whereas the second strain or variety known as the TUN or TON-R, they are the resistant, and they keep on growing even in the presence of the T1 bacteriophage. They keep on growing. They found out that mutations occur in E. coli cells, and those mutations make these cells resistant to T1. They are not resistant in the beginning, but as the E. coli cells are grown along with the T1 bacteriophage, mutations occur in E. coli cells and they become resistant. Now, what Luria and Dalbruck uh, did, that they, as with most of these experiments in which we carry out certain experiment like in living organism or some other, so what we do that we take a control set and we take other on which we are carrying out the experiments. So they had uh, two containers. One was a large flask with a large number of individuals, and then they have individual culture tubes in which uh, various E. coli cells were grown. Now, this is the Luria Delbruck test or their overall setup, the overall setup of their experiment. Now, this one is the large flask that we were talking about. This is the control experiment, and these are individual culture tubes. Bacteria were allowed to grow in these culture tubes as well as in this large flask. Uh, Now, bacteria are being grown in both in the absence of T1 in both of them. So there is no T1 in these uh, culture tubes or in this large flask. So what they did, that after growing bacteria in these culture tubes as well as in these large flasks to such an extent that roughly each mm of culture medium, either from this large flask All these culture tubes contained at least uh, few million, about 10 raised to the power 8 bacteria per ml of the culture medium. So when the bacteria were allowed to grow to that number, after that, what they did, that they took equal amount of samples from this large flask as well as from each of these tubes, and bacteria taken out from this large flask, and they were allowed to grow on petri plate containing uh, T1 bacteriophage. So these 10 petri plates or petri dishes, they contain bacteria which were taken from this large flask. Whereas uh, these petri plates contain bacteria from these culture tubes. So as you can see, uh, bacteria from large flasks were grown on these petri plates on the left, and bacteria that were being grown in these individual tubes, they were also taken out and allowed to grow on these uh, petri plates. There were 10 samples taken from the large flask and 20 samples taken from each of these tubes in which bacteria were growing independently. And they were allowed to grow along with the T1 bacteriophage. So now the petri plates on the left, this one, and the petri plates on the right, they contain E. coli bacteria and T1, and they were allowed to, the bacteria were allowed to grow. Now, since the all the petri plates or petri dishes contain T1 bacteriophage, they would attack the bacteria and they will not allow them to form colonies, because the T1 bacteriophage, when it infects or it enters the bacterial cells, it simply lyses, or the cells are lysed of the bacteria and the bacteria cells are destroyed and they are unable to form colonies. And if a colony is formed in any of these petri dishes, the formation of the colony indicates that bacteria in that particular colony are resistant to T1 bacteria. Because of their resistance, they have been able to form colonies. So, if you remember, if the question is still in your mind, to solve that, the Luria and Delbruck performed this experiment, that whether the mutations are spontaneous, random, or adaptive. So, two kinds of bacteria, both E. coli, one from a large sample and one from individual samples, they have been grown together with the T1 bacteriophage. Now they had to find out that how many colonies are being formed in each of these samples. Samples from the large flask and samples from the individual tubes. If uh, the mutation is random, then obviously uh, the random mutation or spontaneous mutation can occur at any time and in any plate. Whereas if the mutation is adaptive, then we are going to see a different situation. So hopefully by now uh, you have grasped the basic concept of Luria and Delbruck experiment, that what they have done. So we have seen the overall setup of their experiment. So in the next video, we are going to discuss the conclusion, that what conclusion have they drawn whether their experiment was in the favor of spontaneous or random mutation, or the results went in the favor of adaptive mutation. So thanks for watching and see you in the next